Now, here's your host, the creator of the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley.
So, the Game Awards 2025, and it was a really good night. I stayed up for the whole thing, and I thought Jeff Keighley opened the show with a very heartfelt message. For those who don't know, Jeff Keighley's house burnt down in the Los Angeles fires this year. I don't know about you, but if I ever had my house burned down and everything I've ever collected destroyed, that must be horrific. And also the guy lost his father this year, which I didn't actually know. So, a very heartwarming opening message. So as we knew, Expedition 33 was going to do very well, and it did very well. It won Game of the Year, so well done to them and the team. They definitely deserve a lot of the praise they're getting. And it also won most categories it was in across the game show. I believe there is a panel of experts or people across the media. That's about 100 people who have like 90% of the vote. And then it's gamers who have the last 10%. So I would just say to these 100 panelists, I would just say maybe next year give some of the other games a bit of a chance. I think once you've won Game of the Year, then that's it. You've made it, haven't you? So maybe give some of the other games a chance. There were so many really amazing nominations in some of the categories, and yet they never got a chance to win. I don't think. It almost feels like a pre-decided thing that the Expedition is going to win every category because people get a bit carried away with it. But that's just my opinion, and moving on. So the first game I want to talk about in the trailers and the reveals is a game called Control Resonant. It looks like a direct sequel to the first game, Control, where you play as like an agent who has to go into what's called the oldest house. This is like a gateway or a guardhouse to keep all these strange creatures or like forces of evil inside and keep humanity safe. The game has lots of action and the physics are amazing. You can shoot tables and chairs and they all break apart in a really satisfying way. But it's the dark undertones of the game that really made me feel like it was worth exploring. And this game looks like it continues that tradition. I did hear the original protagonist's voice somewhere in the trailer, but this looks like we're taking charge of somebody new. And the combat seems to be evolving what you can do with your hero or your main character. So yeah, very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. Growing up in Preston, I've always been a fan of Nick Parks and the Aardman Studios. Nick Parks is like a bit of a local hero. He basically created Wallace and Gromit, and the other thing he did was Creature Comforts. So I've always been a fan of stop motion videos and films, animations, and so whenever I see a game using that same technique, it always makes me sit up and pay attention. And this next game does exactly that. It uses stop motion to create animations in a game, and then we've got essentially what is a co-op game using these same animations to bring the world to life. It looks gorgeous. It looks absolutely stunning. I actually hope that more studios start to take on this design mantra, because it really does make the game look like it's fashioned out of like 3D. Well, I suppose in a way it is fashioned from real 3D dimensional objects. So yeah, hats off to the developer. I will definitely be checking this out when it comes out. So yeah. Okay, this next one is called Coven of the Chicken Foot. Yeah, that's the name of the game. And I love it. This game looks really well made, and it just got my attention straight away. The art style, first of all, is gorgeous, very cel shaded, lots of elemental effects like lighting and all the wind blowing in the trees and the grass blowing. I love all that kind of stuff. Reminds me of a bit like Zelda, back in the day. Then I also love the premise. So you're actually playing, it seems like an old lady, but she's got chicken feet, hence the name. And yeah, they seem to have adopted that whole like, I can't move very fast, but I'm going to do my best kind of attitude. And you seem to be working in conjunction with this creature, which is following you around like a big lumbering creature. I don't even know what it is, but it looks interesting anyway. It's got the Last Guardian vibes to me. Like, this thing could quite easily just like devour you or like kill you instantly because you're an old lady. But the old lady also seems to have her own kind of like abilities. So yeah, we'll see where this goes, but it does look very interesting, and I hope it is as good as it looks when it comes out.
Make sure he stays secured at all times.
You want to see a magic trick?
The city has become a breeding.
Some of my favourite games, especially action games of all time, are the Arkham games. The first Arkham game was an absolute masterpiece, and it came out of nowhere. And so many games since then have modelled themselves on that same idea of this moving through these environments and then going into these combat situations and fighting with that same style. So I've worked my way through all the Arkham games over the years, and actually one of my favourite games of all that series is Arkham Knight. I think it brought together a lot of the different elements of the different games. Plus, I just loved driving that car and flying over the city and just feeling like Batman. So the idea of a Lego game that has now got that same game running under the hood, almost like a Lego game has like been molded onto the bones of an Arkham game, and that essentially seems like what we're getting with the Lego game, which is based on the Dark Knight series. So through the trailer we see loads of characters from the Batman saga. We see Bane, we see the Joker, Penguin. They seem to be cramming a hell of a lot into this one game. And yeah, I cannot wait to play this. Like I said, I love Arkham games anyway. So the idea of playing a Batman game, but in this aesthetic, yeah, I'm really down for this. I just hope it is as good as it looks.
Come, talk to me first. I can explain what's going on.
So just a bit of a warning, I'm just going to tell you now that the trailer I'm going to show you next is a game called Ontos. They're calling it the sequel to Soma. So it's got some pretty disturbing images in the trailer, so just be aware of where you're watching it, or don't watch it around kids. Yeah, I don't mind admitting that I've forgotten quite a lot about Soma, even though I remember thoroughly enjoying it. I remember some really interesting ideas about consciousness and perception and how we view ourselves. There's actually a section I remember where you find a machine that seems to think it's alive. It seems to be aware that it's human, and it's only when you kind of like tell it that it's not human, that it's just a machine, you can hear it panicking and freaking out. That was one of the most disturbing and yet interesting moments in a game I've ever had, and it looks like they're going for the same thing with this new game. So yeah, definitely want to add to the list and keep an eye on. So while we're on the theme of disturbing trailers, I thought I'd include this one next and then get them both out of the way. This one's even more disturbing and grim. So if you've got any kids around or you're just generally a bit squeamish, just don't watch this trailer. This is the new trailer from Larian Studios, the people who made Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, that game. And So we already know the game is probably going to be amazing. But this game is called Divinity. No Divinity 3 or anything like that, it's just Divinity. So sounds like they're kind of drawing a line under things and starting again with the series. This trailer is very, very disturbing. So basically we see a humanoid, but it turns out to be some type of like demon maybe, getting burned alive, and it's very graphic in how it does it. But what's even more disturbing is the crowd's reaction to what's happening. They're all acting like it's some type of really fun, quaint fair, and the kids are all laughing and like showing real happiness about this thing being burned. It looks like a human, so it really is horrible. And also, as the trailer progresses, you start to see more graphic images. The people in the audience are actually having sex, and there's other things happening, like people are vomiting, and then the animals are just licking it up. It really is like quite vile. So yeah, just be aware that this one's going to be a bit iffy as well. But yeah, I mean, we don't really know what the game's about. This is obviously a work in progress, and we're just going to have to keep our ears to the ground and see what happens. But it is, let's say, it's Larian Studios, and we already know it's going to be good, don't we? But let's just see what they do with this. So this was an interesting one. David Harbour comes trundling onto stage and tells us all he's into 40k and painting miniatures and models. And this is for basically Total War, but with the 40k universe. Now that sounds like an amazing concept, and this is the game. So yeah, we saw like a CGI trailer showing Space Marines fighting orcs, some pretty big ordnance going off, orbital lasers. You got all the tanks, Leman Russes. You got all the orc vehicles coming in, and then you've got an actual gameplay section at the end, which shows all the models they're going to be using, and yeah, it looks amazing. It looks really, really good. I just hope the frame rate can hold up, because it looks like there's lots of assets on screen at any one time. But yeah, really excited to see this, and I hope they can pull it off.
Battles rage.
They failed once, but they won't fail again.
So this next one's called Phantom Blade Zero, and immediately this has people's attention because it looks amazing. There's loads of moves, there's loads of weapons being used. It actually reminded me a little bit of Black Myth Wukong in the way it made me feel when I saw the trailer, in that your gut instinct is to think, is this real? Because this can't be real, it looks too good. And if they can definitely pull that off and marry the moves with the actual visuals, I think this is definitely one to watch.
When Phantom and Blade unite, no enemy stands.
So we're coming to the end now of the videos I've picked for this Game Awards, and yeah, there's been some real highlights. This one is called NoLaw, and I'm just going to include it because I don't know a great deal about it, obviously, but it just looks really good. And like every other video in this series, it just depends on whether they can deliver the gameplay, and the gameplay represents what they're actually showing in these CGI trailers. And I think that's the key, really, isn't it? Like, it just depends how honest these developers are being, because quite often we'll see CGI trailers that then move into gameplay, alleged gameplay, and it's nothing like what we get. So we will see. But yeah, this one looks really good. I like the aesthetic, I like the world building, and some of the moves and some of the things you can do look very interesting. So yeah, we'll see.
The mares and anyone that stands in my way, every last one of them. They're gonna learn something real simple. You reap what you sow.
I think this year's Game Awards were both predictable and safe, but good. So I'm very happy with a lot of the trailers we saw. There's some interesting games that I didn't know existed, now I do. But there were no real shocks this year. There were no like Half-Life 3s. Now, given all the activity from Valve recently, I think there are some credible people now saying, yeah, we are going to get Half-Life 3 at some point. So it looks like Valve are keeping that close to the chest for now. So, alright, fair play. We never got Elden Ring 2, which I thought we might see at some point. And any other shockers, like maybe a Splinter Cell remake, like Unveil, that would have been really good. Just something where I could walk away thinking, yeah, that was actually something I wasn't expecting. But yeah. So that's it, guys. Thanks very much for sticking by to the end, and I would love a like and subscribe as always. I'm trying to get to 100 before Christmas, so if you have subscribed, could you please maybe mention me to one of your friends, and we can get me to 100 before Christmas? That would be great. That'd be a really nice Christmas present for myself. But yeah, well, let's see what we can do. One more video this year, I think, and that's going to be a preview of Ashes of Creation. That's if I can ever get actually logged into it, which so far has been probably 10 minutes. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But it might be the new year before I do that video now. Anyway, hope you're all well and take care. Thanks, guys. Bye.